If you can start doing this routine 2 to 6 times a week, I can guarantee you your body will feel so much better. You will improve your hip function, you will have a stronger core, better shoulder movement, increased range of motion, and overall better quality of life, better coordination, and it will help you advance any other fitness goals you might have. Simple and easy, accessible bodyweight exercises. You don't need any equipment, you don't need a lot of space, you can do it from the comfort of your home. So if you're ready, let's go have some fun. Now we only have 2 activation exercises just to get the blood flowing, starting in a deep squat position. If your heels start raising because you do not have the necessary mobility, don't worry about it. Over time, this will get better. With our feet flat on the floor, our arms completely extended, we will switch between bringing our knees down and extending our lumbar spine before pulling our knees in, actively flexing our core and our hip flexors, and then extending our legs as much as we can, lengthening our posterior chain, and then pushing our shoulders forward until they are right above our fingertips, reversing the movement all the way down first into a deep squat, and then knees down to the floor, and very important, push your back once again into extension, starting to mobilize not only our spine but also our hip, knee and ankle joints, and including our shoulder joints as well once we start pushing forward. This will activate pretty much every single muscle in your body and start get this blood flowing before we move into the actual workout. Also a very nice morning stretch or warm-up routine you can use for other workouts as well. And at some point you should be able to bring both feet flat on the floor, and you should be able to extend your legs completely while your hands are also flat on the floor. So you're working on your mobility, you're working on your strength, and you're also working on your coordination, putting everything together into a more holistic workout routine. And since our last exercise activated our anterior chain while stretching our posterior chain, we will turn this thing around. Starting in a seated position, extend your legs, push your hips forward, and then push them up, opening up our chest and shoulders and flexing our posterior chain as much as we can before we reverse, extend, and then pull in a seated position, once again activating our hip flexors and our quads the tiniest bit before we repeat the whole process. We're also once again mobilizing all of our joints and the surrounding muscles while working on our flexibility, especially in our chest and shoulders. An amazing exercise also to do if you are seated a lot during work, just to get rid of any sort of tightness you might carry around in your chest that normally leads to this weird rounded posture that we get from a lot of working like this. Extend, push your hips forward, and then elevate all the way. Activate your glutes and your spinal erectors. Hold for half a second and reverse all the way into your starting position. Having properly mobilized, we can start with our very first main exercise with our shoulders right above our hands and our knees right below our hips. All we need to do is elevate both knees, and then we're going to move through a very simple pattern. To the right, just 2 steps, backwards, just 2 steps, to the left, 2 steps, and forward, 2 steps. So we're basically just moving through a square, and now we have a lot of tension in our core and our hip flexors, putting a lot of strength requirements on our arms and our shoulders, and most importantly, combining full body tension with full body coordination and activating every single muscle in our body. If you're doing everything correctly, you should start feeling your quads, your shoulders, and your core first before the rest of your body starts fatiguing. And we will do 60 seconds for each one of those exercises until we get to our cool down phase. Now we're gonna do the same thing for our posterior chain activation exercise, adding dynamic movements. And instead of moving into a complete reverse tabletop position, we're gonna keep our hips down here to make this exercise a little bit more accessible. The more you progress, the higher you can keep them. But just for now, we're gonna do the same thing. 2 steps to the right, 2 steps forward, 2 steps to the left, and and 2 steps backwards. Adding more and more posterior chain activation as we progress. By elevating our hips, the stronger we become, requiring a little bit more coordination for this movement pattern because we usually do not work in this reversed crab-like position. Just keep in mind that these movements do not have to be pretty, you just have to go through them to get all of the benefits. And you can do it from the comfort of your home because we do not require that much space and we don't require any equipment at all. With the end goal being a complete reverse tabletop walk, going through this square-like movement. Once again, starting our next exercise in a deep squat position. If you struggle with deep squats in generally, for now, you can elevate your heels to go through this exercise until you do develop the necessary mobility. Right hand to the right side, right leg extended. If you can, touch your toes. If you can't, just try and reach as closely as you can. Reverse, flexing your entire anterior chain, shifting your body weight to the other side and extending here. Right hand, touch your toes, reverse, and repeat. Now we have multiple levels of this depending on how advanced you are. Beginner in both mobility and strength, elevated heels makes this a lot easier. Just like so. Increasing a tiny step in difficulty, flat on the floor. Extend and touch, shift your weight, repeat on the other side. And if you're truly advanced or you want something of a challenge, we're now going to combine frontal movement with backwards movement, adding as much flexibility as we can by always reaching for our toes, both in the front as well as in the back. Now adding even more coordination, even more full body tension, and a lot more strength requirements to this exercise. Not to mention that we're adding a lot more upper body work, specifically shoulders and arms, by going into this pseudo push variation on one side. Now shifting the focus back to our posterior chain once more. This is an amazing exercise, not only for strengthening your back and improving your posture, but also when it comes to tension and full body control. We're gonna start with our belly flat on the floor, do 1 push motion before we reverse, elevate our arms and legs, open, close, pull in, push, reverse, extend, elevate, open, close, and we're working on pretty much every single muscle in our posterior chain, adding a lot of tension and a massive amount of full body control, helping us also with mobility in our shoulders, in our lumbar back, and even in our hips when it comes to abduction. Of course, also working a lot on our triceps through the push motion. And if you lack the strength to go through a full push-up, you can do assisted push motions on your knees, reverse, and repeat, increasing your range of motion as you progress until you do have the necessary strength to go through an entire push-up motion. And always keep as much tension in your posterior chain as you can when elevating your arms, your chest, and your legs. For an exercise that feels absolutely amazing, we're gonna start in a seated position with 1 foot flat on the floor, putting our entire weight on it. And if you cannot sit like so comfortably, elevate your butt during this movement in case you have any sort of tightness or pain. Now, of course, we have a little bit of strength when pushing forward, activating our posterior chain, opening up our hip flexors and our quads, left hand right next to our left foot. And now we're gonna add spinal rotation. Once, to the right, open up as far as you can, go through a stretch in your entire anterior chain, open up your obliques and your spinal erectors, and then switch towards the other side. Open up once more, hold for a second or two, and reverse into our seating position. If you want to add a little bit of posterior chain stretch as well, you can fold forward from here, and then we repeat. Push forward, hand on the floor, one direction. The other direction, sit back and fold forward. Now, I'm not exaggerating when I say this exercise is an absolute game changer when it comes to mobility as well as adding a lot of coordination through more complex movement patterns to our exercising. If you are someone who does a lot of hypertrophy work, where you isolate a specific muscle and only work on that, over time, this will start impeding your mobility, and the lack of complex movement patterns is going to reduce functionality over time, because your body is not used to activating all its muscles within one single movement and firing correctly throughout a given pattern. So adding complexity to your workouts is an amazing way to increase pretty much every single aspect of your fitness. Now for our final exercise, another quality of life game changer. Starting in a quadruped position, external rotation in both of our shoulders, breathing into spinal extension, flexing our spinal erectors as much as we can, pushing our stomach towards the floor, opening up in our chest and our abdominals, and then switching into internal shoulder rotation, lengthening our arms, pushing our hips forward, rounding and moving into spinal flexion as much as we can, elevating our shoulders, pulling our stomach in and tucking our chin, going into complete spinal flexion, and switching, breathing into spinal extension, breathing out into spinal flexion. And here comes a very important thing you need to keep in mind when doing this. We always want to add diaphragm breathing, meaning when we breathe in, we want to expand our stomach as much as we can. And even more importantly, when breathing out, we want to pull our stomach in, adding as much pressure as we can. And then repeating once more. The cat-cow is an absolutely amazing exercise when it comes to overall health and quality of life, and you can use it to activate your musculature as well, because we're not just haphazardly going through the motions, we are actively flexing our spinal muscles, flexing our triceps, and actually adding as much tension as we can to our upper body on this side in our posterior chain. And then when switching, we are actively flexing our anterior chain as if we were pulling our arms together. So we have a lot of tension in our chest. We are actively rounding our spine. And this is going to require a lot of tension on the inside, which means that we're always switching from backside tension to inside tension, and moving from flexing our posterior chain as much as we can to stretching it out all the way and opening up our shoulders and working on our scapular placement and shoulder mobility as well. Now when it comes to your complete weekly programming, if you are a beginner, you will try and work your way up to 1 minute for each of those exercises for one complete round. 1 minute of the first exercise, all the way to 1 minute of the last exercise, just once, and that is more than enough. Starting your frequency at twice a week and working your way up to 4 to 6 times regularly. If you're not a fan of working on time and you want to work with repetition, as an Austrian, I can recommend 9 repetitions, which means 9, 9, 9, 9. If you are intermediate, it is time to add a second round. Every single one of those exercises for a complete minute, take a short break, repeat a second round. And if you are advanced, you can pretty much do this every single day, 3 to 4 rounds. Shouldn't take more than half an hour. It will make you an absolute strength, coordination, and flexibility beast. With that, I wish you a fruitful workout. If you like the video, and come on, subscribe. It's literally for free and you can unsubscribe whenever you want. With that said, I'll probably see you very soon. So until then, have a good one. Captain Cairo. Peace out.